In the heart of the European countryside, there is an area of land, more than 1,200 square miles, that has lain deserted for 2 decades. It will not be safe to live in these villages, to farm this land, for 300 years. This is the Chernobyl exclusion zone. When the nuclear power plant exploded, radioactive fallout 400 times greater than the Hiroshima bomb was dumped on this countryside. You can just make out the cooling tower of the reactor barely half a mile away from here. Now, this area of land was so badly contaminated by the explosion that even now, 20 years later, it is still not safe to walk off this road. We've got the Geiger counter on it. Just listen to that. The radioactivity in this forest is 50,000 times the normal background level. In some of the safer corners of the exclusion zone, a few elderly residents prefer to risk the radioactivity than live as refugees in a far-off city. But Maria Petrona leads a lonely existence. There are no young people here. The children of Western Ukraine and neighbouring Belarus must be constantly tested for concentrations of cesium and strontium-90. Radioactive cesium is still found in the milk they drink. They dare not eat mushrooms here. A children's hospice is full of child cancer victims. Of course, children can contract cancer anywhere, but the nature of these cancers is very different.
Melanoma, thymoma, carcinoma. It is kind of cancer very normal for adults patient, but not for often happen in pediatric, in children oncology.
In some cases, it was the parents who were contaminated. 11-year-old Pavel, who suffered appalling birth defects, is the son of a man sent to clear up the site of the explosion. The effects of Chernobyl have travelled further even than the radioactive fallout. On the northern coast of the former Soviet Union, in what is now independent Lithuania, live hundreds of those conscripted to clean up Chernobyl. The so-called liquidators, almost 750,000 men and women, were ordered to tackle the fallout with almost no protective clothing, hold a silent protest in the capital, Vilnius. They still suffer, and so do their children. Valentina's husband was a liquidator. Her son, Valentinas, lived just 11 days, born with only half a heart and terrible defects.
Valentinas died 8 years ago. He lived 11 days, and he have 6 fingers.
It's never certain that any individual health problem is the result of Chernobyl, but in the worst contaminated areas, the overall cancer rates are more than 50% higher, not to mention the damage to children's DNA and immune systems. The death toll from Chernobyl is not known and is much argued about. The only certainty is that it's still rising. James Mates, ITV News, Chernobyl.